If anyone asked me, what moment completely changed your life? I wouldn't hesitate to answer. It was that night, when my body plummeted down the cold steps of San Diego Memorial Hospital. In that fleeting moment between life and death, I heard a haunting whisper, "You deserved it." The voice didn't belong to some distant enemy. It was my own sister, Megan Anderson. My name is Rachel Anderson, 32 years old. I had just been appointed marketing director for a fast-growing tech company in San Diego. I should have been basking in that achievement. Instead, I lay motionless at the bottom of the staircase, my body screaming with pain as if pierced by 100 shards of glass. Blood trickled from my temple, my breath shallow and ragged. Above me, Megan stood, her face cold, her gray-blue eyes glinting with satisfaction before she quickly feigned panic. I tried to call for help, but my throat choked, letting out only a faint groan. Just then, the stairwell door swung open. My father, Thomas, and my mother, Linda, appeared. Instead of rushing to me, they ran to Megan. Through the hazy fog in my eyes, I saw it clearly. Mom wrapped her arms around Megan. Dad placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice trembling but full of trust. It was surely just an accident, right, Megan? I wanted to scream, "No, it wasn't an accident," but my body wouldn't let me. Pain locked every muscle. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, mixing with Megan's fake sobs. She buried the truth under her crocodile tears. And as always, my parents were ready to believe her without question. In that moment, I saw my place in the family. For 30 years, I'd never been the center of attention. I was just a faint shadow behind Megan's radiant glow, the perfect daughter, always protected and celebrated. As consciousness slipped away, I noticed a blinking red light in the corner of the ceiling, a security camera. That light was like a faint lighthouse in a storm of despair. Could it have captured the truth? Could it give me a chance to break free from the suffocating favoritism that had weighed me down for years? Hurried footsteps echoed. A woman in a white uniform rushed in, Nurse Carla, the head nurse. I still remember her sharp eyes, scanning from me to Megan, then lingering on the camera above. No accusations, no rushed words, but I saw determination in her gaze. "Don't move her, call for backup, log the time, and preserve all the footage from the stairwell." Carla's voice was firm. In my daze, I clung to a lifeline. Someone finally saw me, not through bias or prejudice, but through the lens of truth. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, pain surged in waves. I thought of my grandmother, Evelyn, 85 years old, lying upstairs with pneumonia. She was the only one in the family who believed in me and loved me unconditionally. I wondered how much it would break her heart if she knew the truth. My mother's voice cut through, anxious but not for me. "Oh God, Megan's still in shock. She tried to save her sister but couldn't." Those words sliced through my heart, more painful than my broken bones. Motionless on the stretcher, tears welled up at my temples. The image of my parents shielding Megan instead of looking at their eldest daughter, writhing in agony, made it clearer than ever. I'd been erased from their hearts long ago. But this time, I swore to myself. The truth would not stay buried. I would no longer stay silent. As the stretcher rolled down the long hallway, harsh fluorescent lights stung my eyes. I heard Nurse Carla whisper to a colleague, "Make sure all the footage is saved. I'm reporting this to the manager immediately." In that moment, I clenched my fist, or at least tried to. A spark of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe the camera caught everything. Maybe I finally had proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't paranoid, wasn't a silent victim of blind favoritism. That night, amid the sharp smell of antiseptic and the steady beeping of the monitor, I began to see the path ahead. This was no longer just about me and Megan. It was the story of a woman suppressed her entire life and a family that normalized favoritism. This time I would stand up, even if my body was broken. I don't know where you're hearing this story, maybe from a cozy room, a soft bed, or on a long road trip, but I want to tell you this. Sometimes, the people who hurt you most share your blood. And sometimes, the only light you can hold on to is the truth, no matter how brutal it is. If you've ever felt ignored, compared, or belittled in your own family, know that you're not alone. Drop a comment below to share your story with me. They say the deepest wounds aren't broken bones or bloodstains on skin, but invisible cuts from the past. Every time I revisit my childhood, it feels like opening a door to darkness, and that darkness has never left me. I vividly remember my 8th birthday. For a whole week, I counted down the days, excited for the strawberry cake Mom promised to order just for me. As my classmates gathered in the backyard, I thought I'd be the star of the party. But when I walked into the kitchen, I saw Megan, then only 5, sobbing with jealousy. In an instant, everything changed. Mom hurriedly called the bakery to add Megan's name to the cake. When it was time to blow out the candles, everyone chanted, "Happy birthday, Rachel and Megan." I stood there, forcing a smile, my heart hollow. After the party, I found 3 of my gifts in Megan's hands. When I protested, Dad pulled me aside, his voice stern. "Can't you be a little more generous? Megan's younger. You need to let her have things." A question burned in my mind. What about me? The years that followed repeated the same script, just in different settings. I earned a full scholarship to high school, an achievement any parent would be proud of. But at dinner that night, my parents gave a quick before shifting to Megan's C+ in math. To encourage her, they took us to an expensive restaurant. My accomplishment? Brushed aside like it never existed. When I got a full ride to UC San Diego, Mom's response was tepid. "Good, but did you hear? Megan might get into a community fashion class. Should we throw a party to celebrate?" I sat in silence, gripping my hands under the table to hold back tears. I was used to my successes being overshadowed by Megan's crumbs, but being used to it didn't make it hurt less. The worst part? Whenever I reacted, my parents turned it back on me. "Rachel, you're just jealous. Your sister needs support. Why are you always so selfish?" Those accusations became a label, the envious, petty, unloving older daughter. Worse still, Megan learned to exploit it. She caused accidents, cutting my doll's hair and laughing, "Oops, my bad," spilling soda on my art project, then acting shocked. "It slipped." I'd tell my parents, and the result was always the same. I got scolded for not forgiving. Megan got hugs and comfort. Eventually, I learned to stay silent. I endured because speaking up only brought more pain. That silence grew into an invisible scar on my soul. Over time, I pulled myself up. I worked jobs, studied, and saved every penny for my master's degree. Every milestone was mine alone. I thought one day my parents would see my efforts. But even when I was officially named marketing director, a position many colleagues took a decade to reach, their reaction broke my heart. I remember calling home, my voice trembling with joy. "Mom, I have big news. I got promoted to marketing director. It's a huge step in my career." On the other end, Mom laughed lightly. "Yeah, that's nice. But did you hear about Megan? She might get back with Tyler. He comes from a great family. If they reconcile, it'll be a big deal for all of us." I froze, the phone shaking in my hand. To them, Megan's shallow romance mattered more than the career I'd built with sweat and tears. I hung up, staring out my apartment window, feeling empty. In all that darkness, one light shone through. My grandmother Evelyn. She was the only one who held me when I cried, listened when I poured my heart out, and stood up for me when I was treated unfairly. She'd whisper, "Rachel, you don't need to be anyone else to be worthy. You're enough just as you are." Those simple words were the lifeline that kept me from despair. Without her, I don't know if I'd have survived those years. Now, lying in that hospital bed, recalling those painful memories, I realized my fall didn't start that night at San Diego Memorial. It began long ago, when I was forced to share my birthday cake, when I was sidelined to make room for Megan. And now, all those old wounds were bleeding again. But in this moment, I saw a truth. If I didn't stand up, if I didn't speak out, I'd be drowned in the darkness my family created. I want to ask you, those reading my story, have you ever felt pushed to the margins in your own family? Have you been belittled, compared, or labeled jealous when you were just craving recognition? If so, you'll understand why I had to share this. If you think this story is worth continuing, comment "why" to let me know I'm not alone. If it's not gripping, comment N. I value every response because your words give me strength to keep going and share what happened next. There are moments when I felt like I'd died, leaving only my soul hovering, listening to others rewrite my story. That night, lying motionless in the ER at San Diego Memorial, my parents did what they do best, reshaping reality to protect Megan. I lay in the hospital bed, wrapped in bandages and IV lines, my vision blurred from painkillers. The door opened and I heard Dad's dress shoes before I saw him. He spoke to Dr. Winters and a police officer taking notes. "It's not a big deal. My older daughter, she's always been clumsy. She rushed down the stairs and slipped. Megan tried to save her but couldn't." I bit my lip until it bled. They didn't even look at me while saying it. Mom chimed in, her voice thick with fake tears. "Rachel's so sensitive. Please don't write anything that could hurt Megan. She's just in shock. She didn't mean it." The officer nodded, as if used to families wanting things smoothed over. I wanted to leap up and scream, "No! Megan pushed me!" But my throat was raw, my words dissolving into weak groans. When my parents turned to me, they brought paperwork. Dad set a pen on the table, sliding a form toward me. "Just sign here. Confirm it was an accident. Don't make this messier. Our family doesn't need cops or courts involved." I stared into his cold eyes, familiar with that look, the one demanding my silence. But something roared inside me. Enough! I turned my face away, tears soaking into the pillow. Even in pain, I knew signing would mean losing my chance at the truth forever. When they left to talk to the doctor, Nurse Carla came in. She pulled a chair beside my bed, her eyes kind but firm. "Rachel, I need to ask you something. Do you remember what happened in the stairwell?" My lips trembled. I was scared to speak, scared no one would believe me. But her eyes, free of judgment or pity, gave me courage. I whispered, "Megan pushed me." Carla nodded as if she'd expected it. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "There's a camera in the stairwell. I've requested the footage be preserved. I want to show it to you." My heart clenched. Could it be proof? The next day, when my parents were gone, Carla brought a tablet. She closed the door, dimmed the lights, and played the footage. On the screen, I saw myself walking down the stairs, Megan close behind. No sound, but the body language said it all. My arm reaching out, Megan's eyes flashing with anger. Then her hand shoved my back. I watched my body stumble, tumbling down the cold steps. Megan's fleeting, satisfied smile before her fake panic made me sob. I cried not just for the fall, but because, after over 30 years of being called over-imaginative, my truth was finally seen. Carla placed a hand on my shoulder, steady as a vow. "I'll give this footage to the prosecutor. They need to know the truth. Rachel, you're not alone anymore." I buried my face, tears soaking my hospital gown. In that moment, I realized all the times I'd been gaslit, called jealous or oversensitive, finally had an escape. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't imagining things, I was right. A strange relief mixed with fear flooded my mind. I knew exposing the truth would shatter my family. My parents would hate me for betraying them. Megan would seek revenge for being exposed. But I also knew this was my only chance to break free from a lifetime of cover-ups. Carla left after reassuring me. "Justice will come. Brace yourself, Rachel. There will be storms, but you deserve to be protected." I lay back in the hospital room, my eyes fixed on the blinking red light of the monitor. It reminded me of the camera's light in the stairwell, the light that saved my truth. I closed my eyes, whispering to myself, "This is just the beginning." If you want to hear more stories like mine and relate to the struggles I'm facing, you can find my previous videos on this channel. They say the truth can hurt, but it never stays silent. That morning in the courtroom, my heart pounded like every vein in my body was exploding. I knew once that video played on the big screen, my family would never be the same. And I knew from that moment, I could no longer be the obedient daughter, staying quiet for the sake of peace. The courtroom was still, only the judge's shoes clicking on the wooden floor. When the prosecutor nodded, a technician played the video. The hospital stairwell appeared on the screen. I saw myself descending, Megan trailing behind. No audio, but every gesture was clear, her angry glare, her raised hand, the forceful shove. Then my body tumbling down the cold steps. Each time I watched, I trembled. But this time it wasn't just fear, It was knowing no one could deny the truth anymore. Megan sat a few rows away, her face pale. When a second camera angle played, showing her fleeting smile before her fake panic, murmurs filled the courtroom. She bowed her head, shoulders shaking, and finally broke into sobs. It It was just a moment of anger, she cried, her voice trembling. I didn't think she'd fall that hard. I didn't mean to kill her. Her voice choked, but to me, each word was a knife twisting an old wounds. She didn't deny it. She only tried to downplay it. The prosecutor called witnesses. Dr. Winters took the stand, his voice calm but cutting. With Rachel's injuries, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, a concussion, it couldn't have been a simple trip. A push from behind caused that level of damage. Next was Nurse Carla. She recounted rushing to the stairwell, finding me motionless and Megan crying. Her voice was resolute. I've been in this field for over 20 years. I know the difference between an accident and intent. I saw Megan's eyes right before she cried. That fall was no accident. I looked at Carla, overwhelmed with gratitude. Without her, the truth might have been buried again. Then Megan's ex-boyfriend, Michael, testified. He held a stack of papers, sharing threatening and pleading texts Megan had sent. She threw a wine bottle at me during an argument, he said, his voice low. I was lucky to dodge it, but after that, I knew she had anger issues. The courtroom fell silent. I gripped my hands tightly. I wasn't gleeful seeing Megan exposed. I felt heavy, as if every dark corner of my family was being dragged into the light, raw and ugly. The prosecutor called a few of my former colleagues. They described past accidents, a drink spilled on my laptop, critical files deleted from the shared server, clothes stained before a big meeting. Pieced together, they formed a familiar pattern. Deliberate sabotage, always disguised as clumsiness. As their voices echoed, I felt both pain and relief. For years, I thought I was paranoid, but no. I'd been living in a sophisticated cycle of abuse orchestrated by my own sister. The climax came when my lawyer played a recording of Grandma Evelyn. Her raspy but clear voice rang through the speakers. I'm leaving my estate to Rachel not because she flattered or manipulated me, but because I see her true character. She never asked for a dime but always gave me care and love others forgot. This is my choice, entirely voluntary. No one influenced me. I broke down. I remembered Evelyn's kind face, her hand holding mine, whispering, "You're enough." Her words now felt like a final vindication. My parents, throughout the trial, stood firmly by Megan. When the prosecutor rested, Dad stood up. "This is a family matter. Rachel's trying to smear her sister. She's always blown things out of proportion." The judge, a silver-haired woman with piercing eyes, slammed her gavel. "Mr. Anderson, this is no longer just a family matter. This is about justice. This court won't tolerate violence no matter who commits it." That gavel strike severed the last thread tying me to my parents. They'd rather protect the one who pushed me down the stairs than admit my lifelong suffering. During a recess, I sat in the waiting room, my heart in turmoil. I'd won a partial victory. The truth was out, the evidence undeniable. But why did my heart feel so heavy? I watched my parents clutch Megan, shielding her at all costs. And me? I had only the truth. That truth was enough to convict, but not to mend family ties. In that moment, I realized some families would sacrifice justice to preserve the illusion of a perfect child. They say justice lies in the judge's gavel, in verdicts and red seals. But I learned that sometimes justice comes in a small room where people must face each other and say what they've never dared. After the trial, the prosecutor and my therapist suggested a different path, a restorative justice session, not to erase the crime, but to talk. They explained, "Rachel, this could break the cycle of abuse and silence you've endured for years. Sometimes, justice isn't just punishment. It's a chance for everyone to face the truth and change." I hesitated. I was still so angry, so hurt. But I thought of Evelyn, who taught me that forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's setting boundaries to move forward. I nodded. The day of the session arrived. We sat in a round room at the San Diego Community Justice Center, a wooden table in the center, chairs in a circle. Everyone was there. Me, Megan, my parents, lawyers, the prosecutor, a hospital representative, and a mediator. No towering judge's bench, no winners or losers, just human beings with unhealed wounds. My heart raced as the mediator asked me to start with an impact statement. This time, I didn't tremble or sob. I took a deep breath and spoke. I need safety, I need respect, and I can't keep living in the darkness of gaslighting. For years I stayed silent, thinking I was oversensitive, jealous, petty. But that fall proved one thing. My silence only fed the violence. I'm not here to blame anymore. I just want a life where I'm not afraid in my own family. My voice echoed in the room, clear and calm. When I finished, a heavy silence fell. Dad stared at the floor. Mom clutched her sleeve. Megan bowed her head, shoulders trembling. Then, suddenly, Megan broke down. Her tears this time weren't like her courtroom act. They poured out, smearing her makeup. She sobbed, I've been jealous my whole life. I saw you loved by Grandma, with a career, with everything I didn't have. I thought pulling you down would lift me up, but I was wrong. I just dragged our whole family into a deeper hole. I looked at her. My heart tightened. In her tear-streaked eyes, I saw the real Megan for the first time. Not the pampered sister, not the perfect victim, but a person wrestling with her own darkness. The mediator turned to my parents. They were silent for a long time before Mom whispered, "We were wrong. We covered things up because the truth was too ugly, but hiding it didn't make it go away. From now on, we have to change." Dad nodded faintly, signing an agreement. No more cover-ups, no more accident stories. For the first time, he acknowledged Megan's actions were real. In that moment, I cried. Not from pain, but from relief. 32 years in the dark, and finally a sliver of light broke through. The session's outcomes were agreed upon. Megan would publicly apologize to the hospital staff who witnessed the fall and saved me. She'd cover all my medical and therapy costs. She'd attend a mandatory 2-year anger management program. In return, I agreed not to push for the maximum prison sentence. Megan would receive probation under community supervision. I didn't do this to compromise. I did it because I believe justice isn't just a verdict. True justice is when the person who caused pain faces consequences, and the one who suffered can walk away with a heart unburdened by hate. The day Megan gave her public apology at the hospital, I stood in the back row watching quietly. She held the mic, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry for what I did to my sister, to the hospital, to everyone I hurt. I have no excuses, I only promise to change." The applause wasn't for instant forgiveness, but for recognizing that admitting fault takes courage and is part of healing. I looked at her, feeling something unfamiliar. Not hate, not yet love, just understanding. We were both victims of a family that nurtured favoritism, and if someone didn't stop it, that cycle would continue to the next generation. A year can pass quickly, but it's long enough to turn a bleeding wound into a healed scar. Looking back, my chest still tightens. That fall didn't just break my ribs, it shattered the illusion of the family I'd clung to my whole life. But miraculously from those ruins, I found a new path, one of liberation and rebirth. A year after Megan pushed me down the hospital stairs, I stood on a stage at a national restorative justice conference. The spotlight dazzled me, but this time, I wasn't afraid. I told my story in a steady voice, free of bitterness or spite. "I used to think justice only lived in courtrooms," I said, looking at the audience. "But I learned that true justice starts when we dare to speak the truth, set boundaries, and give others a chance to make amends." The applause was thunderous, but I felt only a simple peace. Peace because I no longer had to prove I wasn't crazy, jealous, or oversensitive. I'd learned to trust my own experience. And Megan? She completed her mandatory therapy program over the past year. At first, I doubted she'd change or if it was just another act. But when I heard she'd volunteered at a community center for young women with mental health issues, something in me softened. One afternoon, she sent me a short email. "I'm not expecting forgiveness yet, but I want you to know I'm trying. I hope one day we can talk like normal people, not winners and losers." I read it over and over. I didn't reply right away, but a fragile hope sparked in my heart. Maybe this time she meant it. My parents began their own journey. After the restorative justice session, They attended mandatory family counseling. Changing decades of ingrained favoritism is hard, but they've started listening to experts and admitting their golden child parenting tore us apart. In our rare meetings, Dad no longer snaps or dismisses my feelings. He sighs and says softly, "I'm learning to be a better father." Mom clumsily sends me new recipes with notes. "I miss our old family dinners. I wish I'd done better." It's not full reconciliation, but they're stepping out of the old cycle of cover-ups. The most moving moment that year came on an autumn day at the university, where my family and I held a ceremony for the Evelyn Anderson Scholarship for nursing students. I wanted to honor my grandmother, the one who believed in me when the world turned away. I stepped to the podium, holding her old photo, my voice catching. "Grandma Evelyn told me, you don't need to be anyone else to be worthy. You're enough as you are." Today, I share her legacy with the next generation. Believe in your value, even when others try to deny it. Looking into the audience, I saw Megan in the back row. She didn't rush to hug me or draw attention. She just stood, clapping long and hard, her eyes red. Mine were too. Without a word, we understood a new bridge had formed between us, fragile, tentative, but real. In that moment, I imagined Evelyn sitting in the corner of the auditorium, her kind eyes sparkling with her familiar smile. I heard her whisper, "Love isn't enabling, it's daring to make things right." That message closed a circle within me. I realized family isn't just where you're born, it's where you dare to rebuild, setting new rules with truth, boundaries, and compassion. Dear friend, if you've ever felt sidelined in your own family, compared, gaslit, or dismissed, remember you're not alone. The truth may cost you, but it's also the only path to freedom. My story isn't truly over, because healing has no endpoint. But I've learned to move forward without carrying the weight of resentment, and maybe that's the greatest victory of all. When I close this story, I realize the most precious thing isn't winning in court, but learning to face the truth, set boundaries to protect myself, and open my heart to others' potential for change. I went from the pain of betrayal to the courage to speak my truth, from anger to calm, from wanting revenge to craving healing. Justice may take the form of a verdict, but true justice lies in daring to confront and giving each other a chance to make amends. Megan has started to change. My parents are learning to parent again, and I've learned to live with a lighter heart. I believe anyone hurt by their family can find the strength to rise and rebuild a fairer, kinder home. If this story resonates with you, please like, share your thoughts in the comments, and follow my channel for more inspiring journeys.